Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a recap of what I've read so far in my romance reading challenge, and I'm doing a recap now instead of at the end because unfortunately, well not unfortunately, I'm glad people are using the public library, but someone has placed a hold on some of my romance books that I have checked out, so I want to return them so the next person in line can get them instead of just holding on to them to make some videos. So I'm going to be returning some of these to the library this afternoon, but I wanted to do a review of what I've read so far, and I also wanted to utilize my further understanding of the romance genre from this website that I was using, She Reads Romance Books, to kind of see what I can slot into certain categories. So let's just go over what I've read, and then I can rate them, what I think about them, and what tropes and genres I think I've covered, and where I think I'm kind of missing out. So far I have read in no particular order, Do You Want to Start a Scandal by Tess Adair. I've read Crazy Cupid Love by Amanda Hager. I have read All the Feels by Olivia Dade. I have read Girl Gone Viral by Alicia Ray. I have read Racked and Stacked by Lorelei James, and I have read Third Base by Heidi McLaughlin. I am currently in the middle of reading Baby Cakes by Donna Kaufman, and I have left Blood Trinity by Sherilyn Kenyon and Diana Love. So I have read 6 of the 8 books that I have checked out for this challenge. So I just wanted to, talk about where I'm at and also try to fit them into the romance genres and romance tropes. So first of all, let's try to rate these in how good I've liked them, and I already believe I have a rating. So from worst to best, I think I bent something. Worst to best. Worst, at the very bottom, my least favorite, nope, that's not this one. I have these wrong, was Third Base by Heidi McLaughlin. Did not enjoy it. 1D characters, pure self-insert, massive ego on Ethan Davenport's side. Just not an enjoyable book, at least not for me. I did not enjoy this book. This book was not for me. This is probably the least favorite that I've read so far, although we still have plenty of space for others to get in. Someone came home. I think it's my neighbor. Next up is Racked and Stacked by Lorelei James. Again, very flat, one-dimensional, not a lot of character growth. Larissa was set up to be not like the other girls sort of girl, but not in a way that was just celebrating her uniqueness, in a way that was just her being mean and emotionally immature. So I didn't like her. Next up was Do You Want to Start a Scandal by Tess Adair. These two books, I really couldn't find a whole lot that I enjoyed in them. By the time we hit Tess Adair, Do You Want to Start a Scandal, I was able to find some more aspects of the books that I enjoyed. For example, I liked Charlotte in this book. I felt like she was a very funny, relatable, interesting character. Then we had Crazy Cupid Love by Amanda Hager. This was one where the subplot was very interesting, or the plot that was going on besides the romance. I really enjoyed the drama, the mystery, the what's going to happen with the family business, the fact that there's this paranormal aspect. The romance I was more or less ho-hum about. I could have left the whole romance out and just read the story about the paranormal activities, happenings in California, and that would have been just fine, but I would rate it higher than Tess Adair and her, well, not Tess Adair personally, I'm sure she's a nice, wonderful person. Shout out to Tess Adair. Do You Want to Start a Scandal? Next up, we have All the Feels by Olivia Dade. We're getting into more realistic characters, more realistic romance. More realistic, I mean by like more 3D characters. They're not just these flat one-dimensional characters. They feel like real people with real problems and real situations. This one, Alex just felt a little bit too perfect of a person. His flaws weren't really flaws, I feel like. Or maybe they were, but they just didn't feel believable for his place in life. And Lauren Clegg just didn't relate to me. So, And finally, the one that I actually did enjoy and made the whole challenge worth reading was Girl Gone Viral. I actually really like this book. Like, I would have liked it whether or not I was doing this challenge or not. It got a 4-star rating for me. I was into this book from start to finish. And yeah, this was probably the best one I've read so far. Obviously, we still have a chance for 2 of these to surpass it. As someone who's currently reading this one, I can already tell that this one is not going to surpass Girl Gone Viral. this one is not on track to do that. No idea how to feel about this one because I haven't started it, so I can't really rate this one. Let's talk about surprises. Yeah, let's talk about some things that surprised me or that I learned during this challenge. So the first being these cheap paperback romances. So this book in the United States cost $7.99, which is pretty cheap for a book in my opinion. And it's exactly what you see in like the shelves of the grocery store or like tucked away in the back of a Walmart. And it's just a cheap paperback book. And I definitely thought this was going to be my least favorite. I thought maybe cheap paperback accessible print was going to be low quality, but that's definitely not true because I disliked these more than I disliked this one. And I found some redeeming qualities in the characters in this book, but I did not find a whole lot I enjoyed in this book. So this was kind of a surprise for me that I learned I didn't particularly enjoy. Or that I learned I did enjoy, that these are not necessarily by being cheaper being more low quality in their writing. So good job, Tessa Dare. The second thing that was surprising to me that I really did not know was I was under the impression that books like this, Third Base, were somehow a little more adult than books like this. Now, by the time I read this one first, so by the time I read All the Feels, I had already figured out the answer and I had talked to my aunt about it. But Girl Gone Viral, like look at these covers. If you look between the two, you're like, okay, this one's gonna be a lot hotter, a lot steamier than this one. Just by my judging by a cover, that's exactly how I read these to be. And that is not true. This was equal, if not steamier than, this one came out swinging. So I've learned to not underestimate these contemporary romances because this is also the thing. If I were reading in like a bus or something, this book, I feel like I might get some side-eye glances. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of social stigma around reading romance, which there shouldn't. You're an adult, you can read what you want. But if you're reading this, you might get some looks on like the bus or the train or in the park. If I was reading this, no one would bat an eye. I could read this around if I was reading this around my grandparents, they'd be like, what are you reading? Are you sure that's okay? You know. If I was reading this, there probably wouldn't be any questions. And that kind of covers up and makes you seem it's unassuming. And when I was reading this book, I was going through it and there was some banter. You could tell they were into each other. There was a kiss. It was really steamy. Then their hands were touching on their couch. And then I was like, fingers are where? We're doing what? Whoa. I was not prepared, and it wasn't the content that shocked me. I mean, clearly I had read several of wonderful books like these leading up to it. It was the fact that it was in this. I, for whatever reason, assumed that these contemporary romances did a little bit more of a PG-13 take on the whole actual like sex scene, sex life of the individuals, and would do like fade to black, wake up in the same bed, or maybe just keep the details a little more high level. Not true at all. Was very surprised. So this was a definitely a learning experience about not judging a book by its cover because I messed up. And I think that the shock value going into this, like this actually surprised me. I was kind of reading through the first scene where they like actually hook up or whatever, and I had to backtrack because I didn't realize what was going on until things were already happening. And then I had to backtrack to reread it. And of course, because I was cheering for the characters, I was very there for it, but it surprised me and was not what I expected. And I have confirmed with several other people that read romance that these books do not necessarily equal steamier, sexier times than these books. These just have less assuming cover and are more fit to read about your grandparents if your grandparents aren't into that sort of thing. So now I wanted to go through a couple of the genres to see which genres I'm fitting or which tropes I've hit. So contemporary romance are definitely these two, Girl Gone Viral and All the Feels. Erotic romance, this one, the author's profile I was reading online mentioned erotic, but I didn't think this was any more erotic than anything else I've read. Looking at those two. So I'm not entirely sure what made this erotic or what the actual in which the intimacy between the characters, so it says, this thing says erotic romance is the category of romance books in which intimacy between the characters is central to the main character growth and relationship. Without the intimacy, the storyline to the romance book would be damaged. And I don't know if any of them fit this. Maybe that explains why these have less plot to them, because it's mostly the relationship between the two characters. So maybe that's why these have less of an outlying plot. This one they didn't even capitalize on the baseball portion of. They didn't even have like a big championship or anything. Fantasy, I'm thinking maybe one of these other ones is fantasy. Now the historical romance, I believe I determined this was Regency, but this was the only historical romance that I read. Now this is a huge glaring hole that I didn't get a book from unless one of my remaining books incorporates this, and that is LGBTQ plus romance. And this was not an intentional overlook. I just was going through the library pulling things without any rhyme or reason, and I didn't happen to pull any of these that had a character who was LGBTQ. So unfortunately that is a gap in my romance reading challenge this year that I'm going to try to correct if I do this in a different year, because that would make things a little more interesting. And there was a lot of subcategories under this category that I want to know more about. New adult romance. We didn't have new adult, I don't think. Paranormal. So I did read a paranormal one. That was Crazy Cupid Love. This was paranormal. Romantic comedy. We didn't read anything that was comedic yet. I didn't read anything that was comedic yet, but I'm hoping that something will turn out to be funny. Romantic suspense. So romantic suspense, it says the romance plotline like has suspense or mystery. I feel like these two definitely had a little bit of suspense or mystery, but it wasn't really the main point. The rest of these didn't really have a lot. Sports romance includes romance books that have a central theme of some aspect of the sports world. Obviously we have Third Base. After reading Third Base, I'm actually like looking into things that are how do you say, like MLB stuff. So it definitely has challenged me to get a little bit more into the MLB world. But the book itself was not very inspiring. I didn't read any YA, and I intentionally didn't. I accidentally read enough YA when I was in the YA demographic, and I had enough. So now I wanted to see what tropes I had utilized, or have been utilized, or that I've read for. So alpha male, it says the alpha male romance trope features romance heroes who are the epitome of an alpha male. They show characteristics of being strong, possessive, confident, and dominant. The only one that I can think of would be closest might be this one, but I don't think I truly read an alpha male one, and I don't think I would actually enjoy reading one of those. Those kind of men sometimes annoy me in real life. So if they take it to an extreme, let me just say that. Arranged marriage. No, this one they like had to pretend to be engaged, but I think things were already there. Bodyguard romance features a romance between a bodyguard and the person he or she is tasked to protect. These often fall into office romance trope or even forbidden romance. That's very clearly Girl Gone Viral. It's Bodyguard. This is one that I did not expect to like because of that trope, or if when reading this list of tropes I was like, that's one I'm not going to like, but I wound up liking. Enemies to lovers. Theoretically this one was enemies to lovers, but I don't think the enemy portion of the enemies to lovers was realistic. If you're kissing people for fun and can't keep your hands off each other, you're probably not a enemy. Just a hint. People I don't like in real life, I don't touch them all over and kiss them for fun, so Fake relationship. Ooh, that was probably Tessa Dare. They had like this fake relationship. Forbidden romance. I don't know. This one is kind of like legally forbidden romance because of the whole like mentor-mentee. Forced proximity. This was something I knew I was going to like, but wasn't sure how much. So I think 3 kind of demonstrated forced proximity. This was Bodyguard, so it kind of had that forced. See, I don't know what qualifies as forced. Forced proximity because he was the bodyguard. Forced proximity because she was his minder. Forced proximity because she broke her arm and needed to be in his presence. Well, didn't need to be due to plot convenience. So I had 3 that at least at some level demonstrated that forced proximity, but yeah, I liked this one the best. This was something I knew I was already going to like just because of what I know from other books. I kind of like it when characters who don't get along are forced to be together in forced proximity, so I knew I was going to like that. Friends to lovers. Maybe this one. I don't know if they're friends. Oh, Crazy Cupid Love. They were childhood friends, now they're lovers. Grumpy Sunshine. I don't know if I had any that were that. Maybe this one. He's kind of a sunshiny character. She's kind of cold at first. Love triangle. I do not like love triangles. I don't know. Office romance. I mean, depending what an office is, like an employer, could be this one. It could be this one. Relationship coach romance, reverse harem, rockstar roommates, royal. I'm just reading through the rest of these to see if there's anything else. Small town. Maybe this is a small town romance. I don't know if the small town aspect is big enough to get this into a small town romance. Virgin romance. One of these was, this one centers on at least one of the main characters being a virgin, often entering a relationship and falling in love with the other main character in an effort to end their virginity. That wasn't the key feature, or that wasn't the key driving characteristic of the female character in this one, so I feel like that maybe doesn't count. So I didn't realize it had to be a central focus of it to be considered that. And yeah, those were the subgenres. I feel like I could have done a little bit better of a job of reading a wider variety of stuff. When I selected these books, I just went into the library, wandered around, picked out things that were labeled as romance, and left. I feel like I could have been a little more intentional to get something from each category. I feel like things may have been easier. I may have gotten a wider variety of things, so that was definitely a mistake on my part, but I feel like I have read a good number of books so far, and I'm really glad that I did this challenge. I'm really glad that I'm pushing myself outside my reading zone, especially because I found a book that I actually unironically outside the reading challenge enjoyed. So it's been a success. I feel like anytime I'm pushing myself outside my comfort zone, it's a success. I feel like anytime I discover a book that I love to read that I wouldn't have checked out otherwise, it's a success. So yeah, that is where I stand so far. Again, I have 2 more books that I have to read before this challenge is done, but I'm doing that because I need to return a book to the library this afternoon to avoid getting in trouble with the library because, well, not getting in trouble. Someone else has placed a hold on the book and I want to not hold up them getting the book because of me, so I'm going to just return it so they have it right away. But I have 2 more to go, but so far it's been a really good, interesting experience. I've been exposed to a lot of stuff I normally wouldn't have been exposed to, and I'm very glad that I did this challenge. If you have any thoughts, comments, opinions, ideas about the romance genre, any suggestions you think I should read, anything you think I should modify for the challenge next year, I would love to hear it. I am definitely willing to get outside my comfort zone to read some interesting books, and I would love to hear what you would like me to read. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.